Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead, where we focus on emergency preparedness, food security, and self-reliance. And today I'm just going to share with you something that I have longed for quite a while. And it goes to food security and self-reliance, also emergency preparedness. It goes really to all three. I grew up in a large family, firstborn of 9 children, 10, but 9 living children. And actually there were 5 redheads, 5 blonde brunettes, 5 girls, and 5 boys. So mother and dad really knew how to put genetics to work for them. But we did things in a big way. We canned hundreds of jars of fruit every summer. We planted a huge vegetable garden. We had a cow. We did all of those things. So that is the mindset I grew up in. And since the time that Jim and I have been married, I have sort of continued with that mindset. When we moved to this place over a dozen years ago, one of the first things I wanted to do was just get back into beekeeping. So we put out, how many hives was it, Jim? 30 hives?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was really a lot of hives. And we did that for a while, and then it became too much for us about 5 years ago.
6 years ago.
6 years ago, and we ended up selling off all of our equipment and giving the bees to the kids. Jim had a shoulder replacement, and I could no longer lift those 80-pound boxes of honey. And we have some acreage here, and when we had bees, we had a field of this plant and a field of that plant. We had clover out there. We had buckwheat out there for the bees so that they could get nectar and pollen. Now, things have changed a little bit. We have aged a little bit. And I think it is really important that all of us consider our individual circumstances and abilities. And so what we have noticed over the past few years is that the things that are closest to the house, the gardens, the fruit tree, our apple tree gills, where we've done several videos on that. We had grand plans of doing permaculture and a food forest and all of those things. The closer they are to the house, the more attention they receive. The farther away they are, it just doesn't work for us much anymore. In addition to that, the price of water in our little town has just gone off the charts, and so we have to be very, very careful with the amount of water that we use. And so we have shut down quite a few things. Now, a number of years ago, I ran across an article on kitchen gardens, the French called. It was an article about how the French do kitchen gardens. And a kitchen garden is not a garden that is in your kitchen, although I've tried to grow a few things in the kitchen and had some reasonable success, but I find that I needed the space where on the countertop that I was growing the things on more than I needed the plants that I was growing. And so a kitchen garden, sometimes on farms where they do huge row crops of vegetables to take to market, but what they use in the household is called a kitchen garden. And a lot of people now are doing kitchen gardens, have been enjoying quite a revival lately. And so I wanted to go through with you some of the things about kitchen gardens and things that I have just kind of always thought would be such a great idea. So a kitchen garden is for household use. You go out in the morning and you pick what you need for the day, and you just, it's close at hand. It's right outside the back door, usually very close to the house. This past season, we did not put in a garden because I was focusing on beautifying our property close to the house, and I put in 3 large planters with ornamentals and laid some stone. And that took all of my energy. I didn't have any energy left for doing food gardens. And so we did some discovery videos, as some of you know, because you watch those videos. And what we discovered was that right in our area, there are farmers who bring their produce to market for a pretty darn good price. And so when I wanted to can apricots or when I wanted to can tomatoes, it was really just easier for us to go to these farmers markets and get what we needed, enough to can whatever it was that I wanted. So I was slowly reorienting myself in terms of what I wanted to do with our gardens. We have had several great big garden spots where we have attempted to grow a field of tomatoes for canning and different. We had a great huge asparagus bed. Those things are gone now because we just didn't have the time to tend them and they didn't produce what we wanted. So instead, I've been thinking a lot about putting in a kitchen garden. And I've been doing some research on it. I happened across a video from a woman who does it professionally. And actually, her name is Nicole John Z. Burke. And I bought her book. It is called Leaves, Roots, and Fruit. I cannot recommend it yet because it just arrived today. And as you know, I always like to preview things so that I can give you my opinion and tell you exactly what it is. So I'm going to be pouring through this book over the next couple of weeks to learn some things, and then I'll come back with it. But she presented in her YouTube, on a YouTube video, her ideas about what a kitchen garden is. And she said it has 5 characteristics. The first is proximity to the house, which we've talked about. Size. A kitchen garden is not nearly as big as a great big vegetable garden that you might have. Then the frequency of tending, whereas you might, if you're doing row crops to take to, and a lot of our viewers are people who have great big gardens, and boy, do I admire you for doing that. Those are a lot of work. But the frequency of tending these little gardens is on a daily basis. You go out, you do something, you come back in the house. You go out and pick something, you bring it back in the house. And you go out and check for water, and it's right out the back door. And so there is a more convenient frequency for a kitchen garden. The diversity, while she says that a kitchen garden isn't to grow things for canning or dehydrating or freeze drying or any of those things, well, it could be. You could do some things like that. And that's what the big vegetable gardens are for. This is more for people who don't have a whole lot of time, or in our case, who don't have the energy that they once did, to be able to have something that still helps out with providing food for the home, but is not as involved as a great big garden. And then she has added a 5th characteristic, which is beauty. And I'll tell you, since we had to shut down our sprinklers and kill our grass about 5 years ago because our water bills just, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the water was horribly expensive. And so we couldn't afford we chose not to afford to water our grass. We had about an acre of grass. The people who had the house before us, the woman was from England, and she wanted an English garden. Of course, in England, they have a whole lot more water than the desert Southwest does. So we cut way, way back, and we are now watering just our planters and our fruit trees and that sort of thing. But this year, our fruit trees produced nothing. We had a very late freeze, and it killed every single piece of fruit. So we had no garden and no fruit this year. I'm going to be starting a kitchen garden, and I'm so excited about it. It is going to be a new mindset for me. I'm not thinking huge and big the way I used to think. I'm going to be thinking of efficiency and exactly what we want. I'm going to be mixing flowers with herbs and with a few vegetables. I'm going to be planting the things that we eat. So I've started it. I'm going to be doing a winter prep on this, and then in the spring is when we will really start putting the plants in. I most likely will start the plants out in our greenhouse, but you don't have to have a greenhouse to do a kitchen garden. There's lots of different ways that you can do it, and you can make it as small as a 4x4 plot. If that's all you have, you could do it in pots on your back patio, or ours is using things that we already have in place, so we're not putting any new structures in place. We're using what we have. So let's go outside, and I'm going to show you what my ideas are. Early this past spring, we got our 4 Vigo gardens ready for planting before I decided not to plant anything. So they are ready, but they still need some work, and I have an idea for overwintering that I'll show you in another video. These 2 raised beds we've had for a really long time, and I'm going to refurbish those. They all have these hoops over the top, so I can grow climbing plants on here or here or here. And so our kitchen garden is going to be right here with 4 Vigo gardens, 2 raised beds, and then a bed along here. Now, this is our bed that hugs our bay window. And well, I haven't had anything in here for 2 or 3 years. We planted onions in here 1 year, but I have grand plans for this one as well. As you can maybe see, I have already laid a soaker hose on the top, and I have purchased this week some herbs. This is going to be mostly herbs, and we're going to need to protect these herbs by putting in a shade cloth, and we'll show you all that a little bit later. But I have purchased a few little plants that I'm going to actually put in the ground a little bit later today. And I'm renewing an asparagus bed over here in this corner. And so I'm very, very hopeful that this kitchen garden will be everything that I see in my mind's eye. I've looked at beautiful pictures, and of course we live in high desert, and so it is not going to be as lush and green as it might be possible to have in other places in the country, but I want some beauty, and I want some green, and I want some utility. And so this is the start of a project, and we'll take you along with us as we go. So think about a kitchen garden if you don't have a lot of time, or if you don't have a lot of space, a great big plot of land, you just have a small area. You can even put a kitchen garden intermingled with flower beds and that sort of thing as well. And do a little bit of research. We'll be talking quite a bit as we go about some of the things that you can do with a kitchen garden. So I'm very excited about this. We'll bring you back soon after I have prepared these to overwinter, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that. So we'll be back soon, well, not maybe soon, in another month or two. We have all of these huge trees, and our yard is awash in fallen leaves every single fall. And while I've tried to do some things with them, I've never felt that I was as efficient as I wanted to be with using the leaves, which are a gift in terms of enriching the soil. But I have some ideas, and I'll be sharing those with you as we go forward. So thanks for being with us, and I hope you can see how excited I am, and I hope my excitement is a little contagious, and it will help some of you have the courage to do even a small kitchen garden that will be very useful for helping us prepare more delicious and nutritious meals. So we will see you very soon for more videos.